Oh, great. Okay. Welcome to the Scottsdale Big Book Study, where we will study the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Today's date is, it's Saturday, the 22nd of June, 2024. My name is Johan, and I'm a recovered compulsive overeater from Sweden, and I will be your host for today's study. And I will co-host Audrey here in a minute, so I'm going to have a co-host. If you have any question during the meeting, please contact either myself or any of the co-hosts by private message in the chat function. The chat function will be disabled until 5 minutes before the question and answer session. Please note that the speaker, Holland G, will be recorded for the duration of the study. However, the question and answer session which follows will not be recorded. We ask if you can please make sure to keep your microphone on mute at all times during today's study, and also please turn off your video if you're exercising, eating, or if you need to step away from your screen for any reason. During the meeting, we'll post the link to our 7th tradition. This money goes towards the cost of our Zoom account, the cost of uploading our recordings, and we also send contribution to our intergroup, Arizona Serenity, in the Desert Intergroup, ASDI, and World Service Organization. We will post a link to the previous week's recordings. These are available by clicking on the link that will be posted in the chat box. Okay, everybody. So here he is, the man, the myth, the concept, Mr. Harlan G.
Way, man. Thank you, Johan. Thank you, Johan. Thank you very much. I'm so glad to be here. I'm back in Arizona. I have been in Arlington Heights, Illinois for the last 3 sessions. And so today I'm back in Arizona where it's going to be a very, very posty 101 today, which is cool actually for this time of year. 101 is our high. Yesterday was, I think, 110, 111, something like that. But that's okay. Anyhow, we have been talking about the chapter, We Agnostics. And we have been looking at this chapter, and just to review, now, before I say another word, we're going to do Appendix 2 today. We're going to concentrate on Appendix 2. And the reason we're going to concentrate on Appendix 2, which in the 4th edition is on page 567, that's 567, is because we read the paragraph last week on page 47 where there's an asterisk. It says, please be sure to read Appendix 2 on spiritual experience. So we're going to do that today. But I just want to review. I just want to sort of bring us back up to speed because that is what I usually do. And I think it's important. What is an agnostic? Now, again, I've talked about this before. I am going to cover it a little bit today. Why didn't he write to the agnostic? Why didn't he write for the agnostic? And the reason that he didn't do that is because we are all agnostic at some level. We are all agnostic at some level of our life. Where are you being agnostic today means to me, when I ask myself or someone else that, it means what area of life are you not giving it to God? Because if I'm certain that there's a God, I'm going to give him everything. And if I'm not certain there's a God, I'm going to give, if I'm not a believer, an atheist, I'm going to have a problem holding on, and an agnostic. Well, atheists and agnostics are not the same thing, but an agnostic is one without knowledge. It is one without knowledge. That's what that means. An atheist believes that there is no religious deity in the sky, no religious God, and an agnostic is one that's not sure, and a believer like me is absolutely certain that there is a God. It doesn't matter what religion or what direction you could get to God. I am certain by the fact that I'm alive, by the fact that I can walk, I can get out of a chair, I can go to the movies, I've held a girl's hand, I've been on a date with a girl. My financial life works. My credit is good. I have a house. This is my house right here behind Snoopy and Charlie Brown, where if you see behind me, there's wall, and the wall belongs to me. It doesn't belong. I'm not renting it. It's my house. And I have my car outside. Those are evidences that there is a God there, and I'm alive, and I'm in recovery, and I'm healthy. I mean, for a 70-year-old person, I'm reasonably very healthy. I'm okay. Well, I also have tragedy in my life. I have rejection in my life. Now, do those shake my faith? Is everything in my life peaches and roses and cream? No, 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 no. Nobody here gets to rise above the level of a human being. I face romantic challenges, financial challenges, work challenges, health challenges, time challenges, all kinds of challenges. All kinds of challenges do I face in my everyday life. But I am absolutely certain, as I am certain that today is Saturday, that there is a God. He doesn't have to reside in the sky. He's in my heart. And if he can do all the things he does, he is concerned about me to the point where he will intervene. He will intervene if I invite him in and I stay out of the food. So that's important for me to remember. Agnostic means without knowledge. It means without knowledge. And we look on page 45 at the thesis line of the big book. The thesis line of the big book says, well, that's exactly what this book is about. Here's the thesis line of the book. Its main object is to enable you to find a power greater than yourself, which will solve your problem. Now, you hear this in OA from the day you walk in. The day you walk in, you hear abstinence is the most important thing in my life without exception. Not me. I went to Roosevelt University in downtown Chicago where I got my degree. And at Roosevelt University in downtown Chicago, no matter what your major is, you must pass you must pass English 101 and English 102. I don't care if your degree is in basket weaving or in piano tuning or in delivering for a pizza parlor. I don't care what your degree is in. If you don't pass, why do I keep saying accounting? If you don't pass English 101 and English 102, you ain't getting a degree, baby. Not going to happen. So English 101 and English 102 are what are called prerequisites. Is English 101 and English 102 the entire reason that I go to college? No. No. Abstinence is like the ramp that gets me on the highway. The highway is my relationship with God. It doesn't say the main object of this book is to help you find sobriety. It doesn't say that. It says its main object is to enable you to find a power greater than yourself, which will solve your problem. Now, I want to make this distinction for those who weren't here last week. Abstinence is only the entrance ramp of the highway. When I first came in, I came in 1979. I went out, I came back. Don't eat, go to meetings. Don't eat, go to meetings. Don't eat, go to meetings. Lose weight, lose weight. That was my mantra in OA. I found out something on my way to today. There is an infinite amount of other things going on besides don't eat, go to meetings, and lose weight. I didn't realize how much I hated myself. I didn't realize how angry I was at myself and God and the world. I didn't realize how selfish, dishonest, scared, and self-seeking I am. Notice I didn't say I was. I am. I didn't realize how disjointed I was from the world around me, that I needed the help of God at every turn to relate to the world around me. And what I understand now is that this is a lot less about abstinence as it is my relationship with a power greater than myself. Now, again, please don't misunderstand me. Don't go off half-cocked and say, I heard Harlan say you don't have to be abstinent. I never said that. I never said that. Abstinence is English 101 and English 102. If you're not abstinent, you can't get your degree. But abstinence is not the goal. Abstinence is the entrance ramp to the highway. And as an entrance ramp to the highway, it eventually serves a purpose of getting you on the highway. I hope I'm explaining that. I hope it makes as much sense as it seems to in my head. So now that I'm on the highway, what am I going to do? I am going to perfect and enlarge my spiritual life. How do I do that? Through work and self-sacrifice for others. And that means sponsoring other people. If I'm not sponsoring, I can't recover. I have to be a sponsor. I have to have a sponsor. I have to be a sponsor. And that's very key. And every single day, I have to make sure that I'm doing whatever it takes to further develop a relationship between me and that power greater than myself. Okay? Now, let's move on and let's look at something else, which is the blood and guts of step 2. Page 47. Page 47. It says, where it's in the middle of the page, it says we needed to ask ourselves but one short question. Now, this next question should make this much easier. You know, when I came in 79, the steps were on the wall. And a lot of us don't go to live meetings anymore, so you don't see the steps on the wall. You only see them in the book. But the steps in the traditions were on the wall. And I looked at that step and I said, this doesn't apply to me. No, I'm not going to make amends. I'm not doing an inventory. I don't have character defects. I'm fine. You know, I just thought, if I just get the diet and I lose the weight, then I can lose you losers in my rear view mirror and go on with my life and be done. It never occurred to me that 45 years later, not only am I still here, but I have more glaring awareness of my needs here than I ever had in any time in my life. So I want to read the next sentence, and hopefully this will clear a lot up for you. Do I now believe, or am I even willing to believe, that there is a power greater than myself? Is there anything in that line that's confusing? No. All that I need to do is be willing to believe, or believe that there is a power greater than myself. Do I have to become a theologian? No. Do I have to have an understanding of God? No. Do I have to have some understanding of how the world works? Let's face it, every single one of the people here today has had people that we love die. Every one of the people here today has had personal tragedy beyond comprehension. How do I know that? A, you're human, and B, you're here. Nobody comes here on a roll. My friend Larry Kay says, nobody comes here on a roll, which means nobody comes here when things are going well for you. I didn't wake up in the morning and say, wow, my love life, my finances, my life is fantastic. I think I'll go join OA. No, it didn't happen like that for me. And I'm willing to bet it didn't happen like that for you either. You came in here because you tried every wrong answer imaginable. And all of a sudden, you decided that even though you had heard about OA years before, maybe you came to a meeting or two and said, this is not for me. You heard that God word and ran out the door. Now you were ready to come back. Do I have to have an understanding of God? No. Let the theologians, let the poets, let the authors, let the philosophers, let the whoever, let them disseminate who God is and who God is not, and what God does and what God does not do. Who cares? Who cares? There's a lot of tragedy in the world. And a lot of people will say, well, I don't know. I can't believe in God because those damn Democrats, they're getting in office and they're going to kill our world. And the other guy says, look at those damn Republicans. I can't stand those Republicans. Then the other guy over there says, man, oh man, I like the Libertarians, or I like the Green Party, or whatever that may be. Who cares? You see, God didn't put, in my opinion, he didn't put a bunch of robots on the earth. He put people. And some people are ill-intentioned. Some people have ill intention. And they do horrible things. I know a little bit about that. I'm growing up with a father that was a survivor of people who were massacred off the face of this earth. There were 8 children in his family, and only 2 died of natural causes. The rest were murdered. His brothers, sisters, grandparents on both sides, aunts, uncles, nieces, nephews, were murdered in Europe. And for what reason? For what reason? Because of the way they worshiped God. They were murdered. And I'm growing up with a father who is telling me every day, one day they'll come to kill you. And if they don't kill you, they'll kill your children because they hate you and you are a rat in their world. And they hate you like poison. You can't even imagine how much they hate you and they want you dead. I'm growing up in this. This isn't some drunk uncle telling me this. This isn't some neighbor telling me this. This is my dad, and he's telling this to me every day. Every day. And I'm growing up in this. And there are people here whose ancestors were chattel slaves. Talk about injustice. And there are people here whose parents, or not parents, but great-great-great-grandparents were on the Trail of Tears. Andrew Jackson and the whole Trail of Tears thing from Florida to Oklahoma. There are people here whose families, ancestors, or present-day people have suffered injustice beyond comprehension. Beyond comprehension. And there are headlines every day in the newspaper that would make a person question God. Now let's remember something because it's vital. I can go and say, F God, screw God, chattel slavery, Holocaust, murders, Trail of Tears, injustices. I'm not believing in any God. Screw you, God. That's okay. But is that the hill you want to die on? Is that the hill you want to die on? Because holding on to that resentment against God, people did those things. God did not. People did those things. Horrible, horrible decisions by people did those things. Horrible. I can't even imagine what was going through their mind when they did them. I don't know. I don't know. God cried too. God cried too. So what we have to transcend is giving God human characteristics or human responsibility. God sent people to this earth, not robots. And people sometimes do horrible things. Now, I'm going to speak for myself here. I spent years in this disease. I don't want to give this disease one more minute. And I'll be damned if I'm going to let Nazis or other anti-Semitic entities kill another Jew because I'm going to eat myself to death over what happened 100 years ago. I'll be damned. You ain't getting me. I will recover right in your face. You want to show him? You want to fix him? Recover and live your life so that those people who suffered injustices, that you were their dream as they died, are in recovery. Show them what you can do. You're not going to teach anybody a lesson by eating chocolate sundaes or whatever you're doing. You're not hurting God. You're hurting God, but you're not hurting the people that perpetrated those crimes. Most of the time, they're dead. They're dead. The people that killed my family are dead. So what do I need to know about God? I need to know there is one, and I need to know that it's not me. There is one, and it's not me. That's what I need to know. I don't have to become a theologian. I don't have to have this deep, vast understanding of God. I don't have to pass some quiz that they give you about who God is and who God isn't, and about what happened on Mount Sinai and what happened in Egypt and what happened when the Red Sea split. And I don't need to know any of that. All I need to know is, do I believe, or am I willing to believe that there is a power greater than myself? That's all that's required of me. And I'm hoping that if you have a God in your heart that you just can't come to peace with, for the sake of your life, get another God. Get another God. Stop trying to push the hippo out of the dog door. Get a God that fits in your heart and fits in your mind and fits in your soul. Because steps 2 and 10 are going to make you or break you. When you were learning to drive, they taught you keep your hands at 2 and 10. Don't let that go for recovery, because 2 and 10, more often than not, are going to be the steps that didn't get worked if we relapse. More often than not, 2 and 10. Do you believe, or are you even willing to believe, that there is a power greater than yourself, and you don't have to understand one more thing? You don't have to be a theologian or a clergyman. You just don't. Let's go to page 567. Now, in the very first printing of the book Alcoholics Anonymous, I have what's called a 1-1. I have first edition, first printing. Mine is in pristine condition. This book is very, very valuable. Very valuable. And I own one. Someone sent it to me as a gift. To this day, I still do not know who did. They have been anonymous for years. I don't know who did that. But I have the book Alcoholics Anonymous, and in the very first printing of the first edition, this did not appear. And as the book went out in 1939, the book went out and people were using it, and they were not having this white light experience that Bill Wilson had. And Bill describes how the room that he was in on the 15th of December, 1934, he describes the light of, he describes that he felt as if a clean wind had blown through and through. God, he says, God comes to most men gradually, but his impact on me was sudden and profound. I didn't have that. I didn't have that. The only thing I can tell you is what my experience is and was. God came to me very gradually. And I don't know what's better or what's worse. I'm not able to judge that. I have no idea. I don't know. But God came to me gradually. And as such, my relationship with God heightens, deepens, and gets more intimate and more thorough as time goes on. When I was a young boy, there was a song on the radio by a group called Spiral Staircase. And the title of the song was, I love you more today than yesterday, but not as much as tomorrow. It's on iTunes. You can get the song or not get the song. I don't care. A number of years ago, one of the members of the group called me and heard about how much I was talking about the song. And he called me, he was in his 80s, and he thanked me profusely for speaking so highly of his song. Well, anyway, the people were writing in, and Bill Wilson wrote Spiritual Experience that appears on page 567 of the fourth edition. And in this, because we're directed to go here by the asterisk that we read last week, as I told you, we're going to read this through and get what we can out of it. And if there's time, we'll go back to page 47. And if there's not, then we'll wait till next week. But for right now, let's go to page 567. The terms spiritual experience and spiritual awakening are used many times in this book, which upon careful reading shows that the personality change sufficient to bring about recovery from alcoholism has manifested itself among us in many forms. Now, you know how you always hear that the first 164 pages of the big book have never been changed? Don't believe that. I want you guys to come to this big book study to know that's poppycock. It's horse hockey. Here's what has changed. First of all, the doctor's opinion was moved to the Roman numeral section in the second edition. Why? Dr. Silkworth was not an alcoholic. This is a book that's supposed to be for alcoholics, by alcoholics. Silky wasn't an alcoholic. Now, I'll tell you another change. Very subtle. A lot of people don't even know that. In the very first edition of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, it says in the 12th step, having had a spiritual experience. Now it says in the 12th step, having had a spiritual awakening. Oh, you didn't know that, did you? Well, now when people say this book has never been changed, this book has never had any change, you will know that it has. And that word experience was omitted and it was replaced with awakening. Having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, okay? Now, let's continue. Yet it is true that our first printing gave many readers the impression that these personality changes or religious experiences must be in the nature of sudden and spectacular upheavals. Happily for everyone, this conclusion is erroneous. So let's say you're like me and you're going along and don't eat, go to meetings, don't eat, go to meetings, food plan, wait, food plan, wait, food plan, wait. And one day you wake up and you feel like crap. You just don't feel the magic. And you're wondering, what did you do wrong? You didn't probably do anything wrong. As long as you're abstinent and your weight is continuing to be at or approaching a healthy body weight, you probably didn't do anything wrong, except this. In order for you to keep this and make it grow, you have to sponsor. You have to make sure that you look for God every day. Now, I'll let you in on a secret again. I'll tell you how I find God every day. I find him in the face of one of his children. You want to look for God? You want to find God? You don't have to look in the synagogue. You don't have to look in the church necessarily. There's nothing wrong with those things. They're fine things, very fine things. I'll tell you how to find God every time. Look for God in the face of one of his children. And you will find him. Not only will you find him successfully, you will find him in a way that will put the two of you on wonderful terms. But this conclusion or this idea that your relationship with God must be like a Roman candle on the 4th of July is erroneous. Let's continue. In the first few chapters, a number of sudden revolutionary changes are described, right? We go through the chapters. Though it was not our intention to create such an impression, many alcoholics have nevertheless concluded that in order to recover, they must acquire an immediate and overwhelming God consciousness, followed at once by a vast change in feeling and outlook. Be patient with God, be patient with yourself, and be patient of the process. But don't stop your action. I'm going to say that again. Be patient with God. Be patient with yourself. Be patient with the process. But don't stop working toward your recovery. In other words, don't stop taking action. If you're not taking action, you're going to be in trouble. You have to keep taking action. Okay, let's continue. Among our rapidly growing membership of thousands of alcoholics, such transformations, though frequent, meaning the quick kind, are by no means the rule. Most of our experiences are what the psychologist William James calls the educational variety, because they develop slowly over a period of time. The more meetings you go to, the more you sponsor, the more inventories you do, the more step 10s you do, the more step 11s you do, the more exposure you have to program, the more you learn about yourself, that you're not so different from everybody else. And in that knowledge comes an intimate setting with you and God. Don't stop taking action. Quite often, friends of the newcomer are aware of the difference long before he is himself. My friends saw the weight loss. Now, when you're 700 pounds, 600 pounds, 500 pounds, and you lose, say, 50 pounds, for me, it was like taking a bucket of sand off the beach. No one noticed. But I'll tell you what they noticed before they noticed the weight loss. They noticed my behaviors around other things than food started to change. I wasn't as argumentative. I wasn't as critical. I wasn't as negative. I wasn't as unhappy. The world, when I'm not in recovery, is something that I don't like. I don't want to be alive. I don't like me. I look at you, I see someone that's all together. I see someone that's got all the answers. Even though you may not, I see someone that had it good and I had it bad. You're lucky, I'm unlucky. Need I go on? Need I go on? So when I'm in recovery, I see the world as an abundant place where we can all live in happiness if we choose to. No, we're going to die. Yes, we're going to get sick. We're going to die. We're going to get old. Boy, I'm experiencing some of that. I wasn't able to walk this week because when I was in Chicago, I injured my Achilles tendon and I have to stay off my feet. Tomorrow, I'm allowed to do 2 blocks. 2 blocks. I'm walking 3 miles a day. Tomorrow, I get to do 2 blocks. And if it hurts before the 2 blocks, I got to turn around and go home. And I'm on an anti-inflammatory. And when I'm done with this, I got to put my feet up and ice my Achilles tendon. I don't want to do that. I want to get out there and walk so I can lose more weight. Okay? But when I'm in recovery, I can take these things and understand it's just temporary. It's not forever. It's not forever. He finally realizes that he has undergone a profound alteration in his reaction to life. That such a change could hardly have been brought about by himself alone. My broken brain cannot fix my broken brain. What often takes place in a few months could seldom have been accomplished by years of self-discipline. With few exceptions, our members find that they have tapped an unsuspected inner resource which they presently identify with their own conception of a power greater than themselves. Most of us think this awareness of a power greater than ourselves is the essence of spiritual experience. Our more religious members call it God consciousness. My God consciousness hits me every day. When I get a sale, when I don't get a sale. Sometimes I look at the clock and it'll say 1, 2, 3 or 4, 5, 6 or whatever it says. I feel the presence of God. I don't know why. I don't know why. I see a puppy. I see a kitty. I see a baby. I see people holding hands. I see the sunrise, the sunset, the rain, the sun. It fills me with a spirit of God. Now, those are all things to which there is a scientific explanation. Kitties and puppies and babies and people. There's all kinds of explanations for those things. A miracle is something, for my opinion, that occurs with no logical or scientific explanation. There are 105 of you right now. Some of you are compulsive overeaters, and you are not eating compulsively, even though your minds and bodies have been designed by God. They started working against you because of an illness of the mind and an illness of the body that compels you to eat food against your will in search of relief from the untenable pain of not eating that food. And once you eat that food, you have an allergy of the body that compels you to eat more than you had intended to eat, and you become obese or anorexic or bulimic. And some of you of the 106 now, some of you are not doing that to yourself today, and you are happy in your release. That's the miracle. Because there's no scientific explanation for a drunkard not to be drinking, or a compulsive overeater not compulsively overeating. And that's the miracle. And to be happy about it, that's the miracle. See, I could take you, a compulsive overeater or an alcoholic, and I could lock you in a cell. You wouldn't be able to get to your food. You wouldn't be able to get to your drink, your drug, your gambling, your whatever it is. I could lock you in there. You'd be miserable. But I could take you and put you in the middle of Doritoville, put you in the middle of Twinkie Land, put you in the middle of Candyland, and you won't touch one piece of candy, and you will be happy not to do so. That's where you fly, because that's God. That's the face of God. Look at your own life. Divorce yourself for just a second about poor me and what you don't have or how tough it's been. You're on a meeting of Overeaters Anonymous. There are billions of people worldwide who have this disease that don't know we exist. You know we exist. What a miracle. I hope you're in recovery, because if you are more than overwhelming evidence of the power of God. Look around you. Mountains and rivers and lakes and all this stuff. There's a scientific explanation for it. There's no scientific explanation as to why we are still alive and not eating compulsively and happy in our release. There is no explanation for that. The only explanation is that there is a God, or whatever it is you believe in, and that power is working in our lives. There is no other explanation for that. Let's continue. Most emphatically, I'm on page 568. Most emphatically, we wish to say that any alcoholic capable of honestly facing his problems in the light of our experience can recover, provided he does not close his mind to all spiritual concepts. The most important tool in this program is an open mind. Open mind. My mind was closed. I didn't think I could recover. Poor me, I'm so different. No, remember the ego has 3 jobs: make me right, make me feel good right now, make me different from everybody else. Poor me, I can't recover. Yes, I can. If I do what you do, I will get what you got. Open your mind to the possibility of God, or whatever it is you want to call it. Doorknob, Lake Michigan, dog if you're dyslexic, whatever it is you want to call it or think of it, that's fine, as long as it's a power greater than yourself. Then you're fine. Let's continue. He can only be defeated by an attitude of intolerance or belligerent denial. Belligerent denial. Wow. Belligerent denial. I will be defeated by that. Really? That's what I want? I want to give God the finger? I want to give God the finger because I didn't win Powerball? Really? Really? That's what I want? That's how I want to end up? Is that the hill you want to die on? There's living left to do. I don't care if you're 8 or 80. There's living left to do. When I was a little boy, most of the friends of my father walked out of the concentration camps and the DP camps. Some of you are saying, what's a DP camp? A DP camp is a displaced persons camp. And they started those after the concentration camps because these people had nowhere to go. They had nothing. They were looking for families that had already been murdered. And the DP camps, a lot of marriages came from that because they just wanted to start families and start going. A lot of marriages came out of those DP camps. But anyway, we find that this belligerent denial is going to kill me. What are you hanging on to? Really? You're mad about your uncle? You're mad about your cousin or your brother's friend? Really? They did something to you that they shouldn't have done? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I wish that hadn't happened. I wish to God that didn't happen. I wish nobody violated you. I wish your mom had lived. I wish your dad and mom and aunts and uncles and grandparents could live forever. But they can't, nor can you. But what those people in the concentration camp would tell me all the time is, live until you die. Live until you die. One day, my tombstone will say, Harlan Grabowski, 1954-2000 and whatever. What did you do in the dash? For it's not the duration that will measure you, it's the donation. It's not the duration. It's the donation. What did you do when you were here? And you can't help anyone when you're eating Almond Joy bars. You just can't. You could help, the chocolate company. Yeah, you can help them. Yes, you definitely can. And the store that you buy it from. It helps the economy that you're buying, hot dogs and hamburgers. And McDonald's loves the fact that you're in the disease. It creates more revenue for them. And the clothing companies charge more as your size goes up. When you have a size that's a little peculiar, you're going to pay through the nose. That's what you want. You're going to help them. But who did you help? What was your donation? What was your donation? And I think that as you are here in Overeaters Anonymous, you cannot give a more heartfelt measure of love back to God than to help a person struggling with this disease get the recovery that you have been given so freely. Dr. Bob, at the end of his life, he said, no man looks as big in God's eyes as when he is bent over to help another alcoholic occupy the rung on the ladder that he now stands on. What was your donation? Maybe you donated to charity. Very good. We need that. Maybe you were a teacher and you helped students. Maybe you were a surgeon and you helped patients. That's great. But your main contribution, because of what you are afflicted with, should be that you help another sick, compulsive overeater recover. Recover. That's God's work. That's God's assignment. Let's continue. We find that no one need have difficulty with the spirituality of the program. Willingness, honesty, and open-mindedness are the essentials of recovery, but these are indispensable. Some of you came out of the How programs. I knew Fred Schneider. Fred Schneider, if you don't know, he started the How program. He was a teacher in Brooklyn, New York. And Fred believed that we were not learning the program. So he did what teachers do. He developed a curriculum of reading and writing so that we could learn the program. And the How programs came out of his mind. And they would do things a little differently than they do what I see today. I don't know. They had step-up ceremonies, and you could only be called on to share if you were sponsored in that meeting, and just different things. But how did How get its name? Honesty, openness, and willingness. That's how How gets its name. If you're wondering what How is, it's just a faction of OA. And there's many factions of OA, 19 of them to be exact. But if you're looking for How programs, I'm not saying you should or shouldn't. And don't ask me about this later, because I don't recommend How or not recommend How. I don't care. Whatever works for you, do that. But How gets its name, honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. He just switched these around to make a word out of it. That's all. H-O-W. That's all. All right. There is a principle by which is a bar against all information, which is proof against all arguments, and which cannot fail to keep a man in everlasting ignorance. That principle is contempt prior to investigation. Herbert Spencer. Now, in a book called The Writing of the Big Book by Scherberg, he believes that Herbert Spencer never said any such thing, that Wilson got it wrong, that this quote is from somebody else. Who cares? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. There is a principle which is a bar against all information, which is proof against all arguments, and which cannot fail to keep a man in everlasting ignorance. That principle is contempt prior to investigation. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there really is a kind, munificent, benevolent God. I now believe that with all my soul, but you couldn't have convinced me of that when I was a kid. Not after what my dad showed me. Not after the fact that I didn't get a pony for Christmas and we didn't have a big house. I grew up in a 4-room, 1-bedroom apartment. We didn't have much. We didn't have anything, really. My mom was mentally ill and physically ill. My dad was old. He was 54 years old on the day I was born. He was from Europe, so he didn't speak the language too well. I was ashamed. Most people thought he was my granddad because he was so much older than me. I got a bad deal. Bad deal. No, I didn't. I had the perfect parents. They loved me. And I was the light of their life. I was the light of their life. They're proud of me this morning, I hope. They're proud of the many, many, many retreats and conventions I traveled the world to do. They're proud of my recovery, and they're grateful that I give them the credit that I give them, but they're proud in that I don't hate myself anymore. That the life that they gave me, I treasure every day. I want to live. I don't loathe myself any longer. I don't loathe God. I don't loathe myself. And I don't fight back against battles that just don't exist. Whoever you are, whatever it is you believe in, I embrace it. If it works for you, God bless you. Who the hell am I to judge? Who the hell am I to judge? You don't have to be a theologian. You don't have to be a clergyman. You don't have to be an expert on religion. You don't have to have an understanding of God at all. All you need to know is it's a power greater than myself. Mother Nature. A lot of people say it's the spirit of the universe, Mother Nature. That works for you. God bless you. God bless you. An atheist is one who believes that there is no religious deity, there is no religious force at work. An agnostic doesn't know. Ag means without, Gnostic means knowledge. And a believer like me believes that there is a God. I see too much overwhelming evidence of that God in everything I see and do. I hear a lot of people on the phone every week. I get calls that are quite impassioned from people. And some of the people are having a good time of it. And a lot of those people are in the depths of tragedy, horrible tragedy. And I listen to them cry. And I bless them. God can help them where I can't. I can only bless you. I can only tell you what I think, what I know, based on my experience. You got to sponsor. You got to be of service. You have to perfect and enlarge your spiritual life through work and self-sacrifice for others. For if an alcoholic fails to perfect and enlarge his spiritual life through work and self-sacrifice for others, he will surely drink again. And if he drinks again, then surely faith will be dead indeed. With us, it is just like that. That's very important. This is Appendix 2. We're not going to go through it every time the asterisks indicate we should. We're not going to do that. We're just going to go through it this one time, and that's it for this go around. Before I turn it over, we will pick it up next Saturday on page 47 with the paragraph, "That was great news to us." That's where we left off last week, but I wanted to cover Appendix 2. I hope that it was helpful. I don't always know. So I hope to God that this was helpful, that you have a better understanding of spiritual awakening versus spiritual experience, and that I hope what we've done here this morning is give you some information that will help you embrace God's love, whether you believe in a religious deity or you do not. Now, before I turn it over, we've got something coming up in July on the 12th, 13th, and 14th of July, and it is taking place in Phoenix, Arizona, and it is a retreat, a big book retreat, and it's going to be a good one. We're going to get over 100 people there, and I hope you're one of them. We're going to learn, we're going to cry, we're going to laugh, we're going to socialize, you're going to expand your God squad. It's going to be great. For information and registration on this upcoming retreat in Phoenix, Arizona, go to phoenixoa.org, phoenixoa.org. I hope to see you there. Now, we have our regular Scottsdale meetings Sunday through Friday at 5:30 Pacific, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And I hope to see some of you on A Vision for You, which is a phone meeting, A Vision for You. Very, very powerful meeting. Very powerful. Okay, let's turn this over to Johan, and let's go from there.